This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's pod. This is the weekly review of October 30th, 2021. Phil, did you know tomorrow's my birthday?
I did now.
Because I haven't told anybody. It's not like you're forgetting. So yes, we're recording this on Monday. We've got some special guests. There's an interesting format you're seeing on your screen if you're watching. You should be watching on YouTube because we need those subscribers. Phil, I know we've got... Are we announcing the contest winners tonight?
We are going to announce the winner tonight, yes.
Excellent. So I'll make sure I forget when to actually do that. That being said, we've got Dina and Willis on our podcast, as you can see by their name tags. If you're listening, there's 4 people on our screen. And Phil, who are these people? Why are they on my podcast?
Sure. So Willis and Dina are, I guess, Disney friends of mine, for lack of a better way of saying it. We've met up at the parks a few times. But also when the pandemic started, a bunch of us started having weekly Zoom calls to get through the pandemic and kind of talk about our Disney dreams and wishes and stuff like that. We've kept it going. So I knew that they were going to be down in the area and that part of their activities was a VIP tour they were going to be taking, which I thought would be cool for them to come on and talk about that VIP tour and kind of how it went. Because I'm sure it's one of those things a lot of listeners and viewers haven't probably done themselves and have some questions or just wondering how about it.
All right, so Disney friends. Dina, thank you for being on. Who are you? Who's your Disney persona? Who are you?
I'm Dina. I live in Los Angeles. I'm a Disneyland local, but I'm also a Disney World and Universal Orlando annual pass holder.
Nice.
And and I know Phil through. I think we met almost around the same time I met Willis, almost 5 years ago at a Disney meet. Yeah. Very
cool. I just want to comment, Phil. You had your Zoom meetings for the COVID. I guess that's your version of like our podcast, right? I mean, and the podcast was basically to get our COVID Disney kind of thoughts together.
Yeah. We just weren't recording our weekly ones.
Exactly.
We didn't record.
But... We shared with the rest of the world. You kept this one private from everybody else. That's cool. Willis, thank you for coming. We haven't heard your voice yet, so as viewers can see you, the podcast listeners cannot. So Willis, who are you? And welcome.
Well, thanks. I'm Willis. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and so I actually met Dina back in 2017, and through different Diz events, met up and became friends, and I used to go out to California, and at one point I was a premier pass holder for both Disneyland and Walt Disney World. Now since that's gone away, I'm now only Walt Disney World, but a Universal Orlando annual pass holder as well. And Phil, I think we met at the Diz thing in 2017.
Yep.
There at the boardwalk.
Mm-hmm.
And
nice.
And then Dina and I have traveled actually together. And some other friends. We went to Alani. I've been to Disneyland. Did the expo last time as a sorcerer. Been the Destination D that Phil's getting ready to go to. So
I'm so jealous.
Yeah. So
I'm jealous too.
I'm jealous of me as well.
Yes, it's a good way of putting it.
It had been in my plans to try and go this year, but then Disney held off on announcing the date, and I literally got there like 5 days after for my 9-night trip, so it was like I can't reschedule.
It's tough to redo that. Okay, so we're Dina and Willis are going to hang out with us as we do the normal Disney Comeback Index round out with all the news and notes that we're going to do. And we're going to put them through the paces before we actually get to talk to them about the fun stuff about how they decided to do a VIP tour, where the idea came from. And because I'm sure everybody that's listening, if you haven't done a VIP tour, everybody's thinking about when can I actually do it and go through it, because I imagine it's an awesome experience. With that being said, I was gone last week, and Phil, you've filled in with your lovely family. Apparently, I from all I'm hearing, I expect it to be one of the most viewed episodes of all time in the history of the DBC pod. So Thank you to your children.
I think so. Yes, I think people appreciated. At least saw a few comments. People were glad to hear from kids and get their thoughts on the fireworks and stuff like that. So it's good.
I just want to say that Phil did all the post production on them, and I'm so proud of his ability. It probably was better than mine, I want to say, but for my ego, let's just say that hopefully my job is still secure.
Well, I'm sure it took me about 8 times longer to put it together.
That's only because I've had practice.
Yeah.
All right. That being said, let's get on with the show. We're going to go to the DCI. Not much has changed in the coming weeks. We still have at 75.19. And Phil, my OCD is kicking in. I need to change the layout. Do you have it up by any chance?
I can get it up.
Oh, you're not ready. Okay, that's not your fault because you're.
Well, no, I have it up now. So the latest updates, though, were really, and it's one of the news items that we're going to talk about, so it flows in nicely, is that there are some meet and greets back, although they're getting a slight penalty because they're only called sightings now, not meet and greets. But those started October 28th. And also the carriage hayrides are back at Fort Wilderness, and Port Orleans reopened with most of their amenities, at least the French Quarter did. So,
including beignets.
That's true. The beignets are back. I saw that.
Are the boats running down that river again now, or not yet?
Yes, they started to go to Disney Springs. The ones from there, I believe they started the same day it opened.
So, do Old Key West and Saratoga have their boats back now too?
That's a good question. I saw somebody post about that they were staying at Port Orleans and the boat was back. I didn't see specifically.
I think all the boats are running. I want to say now with the only thing that wasn't running wasn't it the Port Orleans? At least in the last month.
Saratoga and Old Key
No,
West
they hadn't been running
either. So that's why I was asking if they're running from Port Orleans. Or are they running from the other two now? So.
That was my first on-property Disney experience was Old Key West and going from boats from downtown Disney back to the resort, and that's where I fell in love with those boats on that side of the property.
I've never used the boats on that route. I've always had a rental car when I stayed over there. Although I'm staying at Saratoga in December with that one, so we'll see if I end up on a boat.
Well, this will date me. I stayed at what is now Riverside. It was Dixie Landings.
Yep.
Before it changed back in 2000. So I stayed there and actually probably rode the boats there to Pleasure Island and all that stuff down there.
The boats are really cool. It's they're not like special in any way. It's a boat on a waterway, but like anything else, it's got its Disney magic. You're on a boat and it's Disney, and you don't have to drive your car, ride on a bus. It's nice and pleasant, and usually you're doing it in the evenings, and it's not as hot and everything else like that. So it's usually pretty cool.
Well, it's also a nice route that those boats go down. Mm-hmm. It's got a
it's different
on both sides.
And most people don't feel like going down the bayou.
Yeah. Oh yes, certainly. It's definitely on point with the theme. And Phil, in the last 2 weeks, I don't think there's been really that much Disney news. So I've kind of for those that don't know, I don't remember if I mentioned in the last episode, I went camping for like 5 days. So I mean, even though I had my phone, I was like, I'm just turning my phone off. And when I came back, I was like, did I miss anything? And everybody was like, no, not really. I'm like, well, there was enough time for people to leave Discord and then come back after having a bad day, and I don't think anybody left. And I don't know if RC is listening to right now, but he came back today, so hopefully he's feeling a little bit better. For everybody on our Discord server, I know things kind of get heated in some of the COVID areas and all this other stuff of the Discord. Please don't leave the server. If you need to take a break, just turn off your notifications and forget it's there. Do not leave the server, please. Because then no one can contact you, and then if we want to rescue from your melancholy or anything else, we can't contact you otherwise. Just don't leave. Just say, all right, I'm just not going to look at my phone for a while. I think you can do that. Just PSA, whatever you want to call it. Because if you leave you leave the community. And if you leave the community, we're that much
we worry about you. We're stalking you and want to track you down at Publix or whatever.
Oh, I mean, I'm not doing that, but there's plenty of people I found him on LinkedIn. I know where he lives. I think we need to take a drive to make sure he or she is okay. But yes, we love all of our community members, and we want to make sure that you're good and you're not just disappearing for some random reasons. That being said, Phil, why don't you take us in with the news?
And I guess we'll start with the big news of the week, which of course is the announcement of our winner from our contest.
Ah, yes.
So we did it over the last 3 weeks to try to boost our numbers for our YouTube subscription counts, which did actually jump up quite a bit. We didn't quite hit our target goal, so we'll probably have to do this again in a little bit, but we're within spitting distance.
Wait, hold on a sec. Dina Wills, are you subscribers on our YouTube channel?
Mm-hmm. I am.
Dina. Yes, thank you. Okay, because I was gonna chastise you live on the air, but that's fine. Good. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
But the winner is somebody who actually commented a couple times, which is great. We actually had some good back and forths, but it is Jade D is the winner. So I will,
Congratulations.
I guess, respond to your comment and try to figure out the best way to get your information so I can mail you that poster and map. So
if you are listening to this right now and you're not on Discord, join Discord and you can direct message Phil and you can kind of go on if you don't feel comfortable giving out email addresses and all that other type of stuff. I mean, I guess you have to give out your address if you want it anyway. So what's an email address after that? But Phil's going to take care of it, I guess. But yes, if you're not on Discord, you should be on Discord. That's my hook, right? We need always looking for new members for the community to go on. But yeah, awesome, Phil. Good job. Thank you.
Okay, and the next actual real news story, and it's perfect timing that Dina is on here, and also Willis, who has more experience with Disneyland than both Jason and I do, is that there was some Disneyland news in that Disneyland increased their ticket prices, at the same time also announcing that their highest level of their Magic Keys, which are their annual passes, the Dream Key, has what they're saying sold out 2 months after it was initially offered. So the pass that kind of gets you in with the least amount of blackout dates, you can no longer buy, which I guess a lot of the dates are already tough to get at times too, but so maybe they already oversold it. I don't know.
A little bit.
But you can see that, ticket prices, they went up, $5, $10, $15, whatever it was. I saw depends on the date. But something like a tier 5 park hopper went from $209 to $219 and stuff like that. I mean, they're getting pretty pricey for these one-day tickets to Disneyland. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
They added in a 6th tier, so there's now 6 tiers on the one-day tickets. The multi-day tickets are not tiered, so that's one thing of note. So if you're going for a single day, check what tier you are, because I've had friends that not paid attention and they've bought a tier 3 ticket and they really needed a tier 4 or a tier 5, and you can't do that. You cannot upgrade it unless you do it in a ticket window. So you're kind of SOL on getting a reservation day of sometimes. But yeah, speaking of the Magic Keys, I let Willis know this earlier, but I spent the last 36 hours trying to get a reservation for Veterans Day because I didn't already have one. I finally got one. That is one thing, you have to have patience with this new system. It's kind of like Disney World was back when Disney World first reopened, and you really had to patience about booking reservations and things redropping. I will say I've not been able to get a date. It's just taken some patience. Not surprised about any of the news. I'm not surprised the Dream Key sold out. I'm not surprised about ticket prices increasing. They did not increase ticket prices when tickets went back on sale back in April. So we technically haven't had an increase since February of 2020, the last time that Disney did their across the board increases. So it was not a bit shocked to see that. The more surprising piece to me was that parking didn't increase back when Annual Pass was the first one on sale, that they waited until now to do that. I thought that would have happened back in August, but they waited until now to bring it up to 30. And the other piece of news that came out with that, at least for the Orange County Register, is that trams are supposed to be back early 2022, which I'll be very thankful when they are. It is a hike, especially coming from somebody who usually parks and walks at Disney World. Even with the trams not running there, it is much more of a hike than it is even walking from the boonies of the Animal Kingdom or the Magic Kingdom parking lot. It's a further hike for the parking structure, so...
because I told you, Dina, one time I stayed at the Holiday Inn on the other side of Mickey and Friends, and to the main gate, it's probably almost a mile walk.
Oh, wow, really?
It's about, from the parking structure to the main gate, it's just shy of 3/4 of a mile. So it's not close, the best way to put it. So I've walked from the boonies of the Epcot parking lot to the front of Epcot, and even walking from the back of the Animal Kingdom parking lot to the front of Animal Kingdom. It's not that far. Like you have to walk the entire length of Disneyland to give you an idea. The parking structure is in like the northeast corner, so you have to walk all the way down, or the northwest corner, I mean, and you have to walk all the way down the side and then into the Esplanade, basically. And then you can go to either park. And I usually will walk sometimes at the end of the night just because of traffic getting onto the trams, but having to walk both ways, and it not being a choice to not walk is not fun. So. Yeah, it's, after walking 25,000 steps during the day, you're like, I now have to walk another 15
you got to get your steps in, right?
Definitely get your steps in.
I mean, I saw on Twitter, I guess, like, maybe it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Phil, maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong on this. They were saying like you could buy the top tier pass, but then not be able to use it for like a month and a half because it was all booked out, and so like whoops. That's some legal action going on right there.
That's kind of going back to what I said, that you have to have patience about booking reservations. So I have a friend who bought a Dream Key like 2 days before they closed sales out, because the problem is some of my friends had bought in that SoCal ticket deal, or the California resident ticket deal they did over the summer, so they had until the end of September to use those tickets. So they still had those tickets come September, and they hadn't signed up yet for their their keys. So I got one friend who got really lucky. She slid in underneath the deadline because she wanted the Dream Key, because that's the only pass that parking is included. The key down below, the next one down, which I think is the Believe Key, has 50% off parking. But if you go frequently, that will add up. $15 a pop every time you go. That does add up at the end of the day. But yeah, as I was saying, you just have to have patience. Like, I've yet to not be able to book a date I want. The only thing that I did book far out and that I'm holding is I've grabbed New Year's Eve the second it released, because I think days like that are going to be a little bit tougher.
Sure.
But thus far,
the
night before, you've always been able to get the next day without an issue, because people do cancel their plans because they get dinged in the system, which is very different than the Disney World system. With Disneyland system, you have like a 3-strike policy of booking reservations. So if you've missed 3 reservations where you haven't walked into the gates, you have a 30-day blockout window, basically, where you can't book anything, which Disney World doesn't have. So at Disney World, you can book your reservation and not show up, and you're not penalized, which the Disneyland system does penalize you, which is the reason that reservations will redrop. Is people will, if their people are going to change their plans, they're going to cancel the reservations so they don't get a strike. So I took my first strike this past weekend, since I came down with a little bit of a cold over the weekend.
Can't get 2 though.
There was a little bit of good news, though, for our Disneyland goers, or at least a tease of some news that it appears the Main Street Electrical Parade is going to return and, I guess, shine back into existence, or whatever the term they used when it went away. And it is returning again and again and again. So I don't know. I mean, being more of a Walt Disney World person, having any nighttime parade I'm very jealous of, but it's just interesting that they've had, Paint the Night and stuff like that, but they seem to keep bringing back the Main Street Electrical Parade.
Yeah, bring back Paint the Night, not Main Street Electrical Parade.
Yeah. Or maybe who knows, maybe they'll bring back both at some point and have one run in California Adventure and one run in Disneyland. I mean, Paint the Night is now had its last run through California Adventure, so who knows with between the two where they'll run it. Yeah, I have a light bulb from like 1996 when the parade glowed away the first time.
For the first time.
So, yeah. Yes, I have one of those commemorative light bulbs that when they said the parade is going away, we bought a light bulb. So yeah.
Well, one of the things I found out, because I'm a big fan of Len Testa's Disney Dish podcast. I think it's one of the better Disney podcasts out there. And they had Jim Hill had his own history of the electrical parade at Walt Disney World, and apparently that was a precursor for the Main Street Electrical Parade, and I never really put 2 and 2 together for that, just because of the timing of everything. So that was when I saw that on Discord, the news kind of was breaking about that. I was like, hey, I just learned about that, and I don't know if it's me being stupid, but I just never realized that those were kind of connected in the same time frame in Disney World company history, I guess.
So we'll see, though. But, I mean, it's good that they're at least thinking about bringing back a nighttime parade somewhere. So hopefully that means that, they haven't totally given up on the concept.
Yes.
Hopefully we get something at Walt Disney World, but who knows? It gets so crowded before the fireworks there. But
yeah, I'm curious when Disney World's going to get a full parade back, because Disneyland will have a full parade running through it again in a week from Friday on the 12th when Christmas season launches.
Well, I'm willing to bet we'll see a full-time parade at Disney World again, probably in Q1 next year after the holidays, if I had to guess.
Well, the Christmas after-hours event at Magic Kingdom will have a full parade.
Oh, I'm just saying, parade.
They are getting a full Christmas parade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because it's limited attendance, so they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just talking about full day parade.
A daytime parade.
Yeah.
But Dina, isn't the capacity at Disneyland still somewhat limited compared to what we have?
It's only limited. It's not limited. Well, it's not limited by the state anymore. It's just limited by Disney's own limitations on staffing and crowd
Because
control.
I'm wondering if they're trying to look at what can we do from a crowd control here at Disneyland, and then see what happens. Because Phil, you and Jason, you've been there when they've had fireworks, and it's the hub there at Magic Kingdom is just packed.
Yeah.
Well, so is Disneyland right now. If you go watch fireworks at Disneyland on a Saturday night, I mean, it's packed in. It's not. Disneyland is not crowded. I think the problem right now is that we don't have any daytime shows. The things that normally eat crowds into places are people like waiting for a parade haven't been there. So like the lines for the rides are, and this is, I mean, I've posted about this before, that the lines for the rides are so overstated compared to what the actual waits are at Disneyland. But the lines can look really long, but they move really fast.
Oh, we've got a topic about that.
Yeah.
One of my new favorite Twitter accounts.
So,
it's now copied on Discord News Channel, by the way, because I love it. I saw something today.
So speaking of things coming back, though, I did mention it in the Disney Comeback Index at Walt Disney World. They have had the return of character meets at Walt Disney World. Although they are not full-on meets, they are distant meets, so you kind of, I guess, get to take sort of those selfies and that sort of thing.
Very
and in
weird.
fact, Disney is renaming them for now, calling them sightings, which I'm not really crazy about that name, since that seems like spotting them across a crowded room or something.
Well, that's
like
what they've been doing already,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
like Winnie the Pooh running through the fields with
Yeah.
a net or anything else. That's a sighting. Like, hey, over there in the distance, that's Winnie the Pooh. Not like we're online to meet.
Yeah, so now you get in
Tiana or
line
something.
to have a sighting. You can do Mickey at Town Square Theater. They have a number of the princesses. I believe it's been Tiana, Cinderella, I think Elena and Rapunzel have been at Princess Fairytale Hall. There's also reports of Minnie Mouse meeting at Red Carpet Dreams in Hollywood Studios. I don't think that one's open yet, though, but that was another one that was supposed to come back. So it's a start. It feels like something that probably could have happened a while ago if it's still distant meets and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's a start, and it's good to see some progress coming back, because I know characters meets, sightings, whatever you want to call them, is kind of a big part of Disney trips for a lot of
Well,
people.
to piggyback on that idea, Willis, I want to know what your opinion is. So, my wife and I were talking. Was it this today, Monday? So Saturday night, about our upcoming big trip in February. So this is our twice canceled 2-week trip, family reunion. So original March of 2020. Second going was we would have just been coming back from it. We would have been down there the same time you guys were down there. And so now we're rebooking it. So anyway, we're saying, like, okay, part of our Disney vacations is eating out, having good restaurants and foods. We've got younger kids that are not vaccinated yet, so we're really like, we don't want to do. My wife's not comfortable indoor dining at this point, and there's no meet and greet. So what do we go for? We just did like a weekend trip last month, so we did like a little quick jaunt. And Willis, what is your opinion on like a Disney World trip? Would you spend big money on a big production, like not just yourself or with friends that are veterans? Like if you don't do one thing one time, but you still have the experience, but like bringing the kids down, bringing other family or people for the first time, and you don't get the full-on Disney World experience with these meet and greets. Is it still worth it, or is this something that's kind of would bring you halfway back to the magic? I guess I don't know what you want to call it.
Well, I mean, I probably, yes, would go on the trip. I'm not a big meet and greet person, so that wouldn't be something I would typically do. But if you have kids or, that want to do it, by all means, I would say, do that, because at least it's something. Like Phil said, it is something. It's, so you're not missing out too much on it. Dining, I mean, there's a lot of options there, even with table service, with quick service, so you don't have to do table service. But honestly, the table service, actually, for the most part, if you can get the reservation, which is really the hard part. Yeah. I mean, I felt better doing that, going out to Walt Disney World, eating there, than I have even locally. Fair. But I mean, you have to do what's right for you and your family. I mean, because like when Dina and I travel together, we typically will do one table service meal for the day, and then, quick service the others. Now, if Dina's by herself, I think you do no table service usually, except for maybe a rare occasion. And even by myself, for this last trip, I was eating probably table service because I like that break.
Yep,
and so
that's why we do
that's
it.
Where, because you are sort of have to stop, rest, relax, even if it's for an hour and a half for a table service.
All right, well, so let me phrase this a different way. So taking your touring habits out of it. So Willis, the travel agent, you're booking a trip for a family of 4 with 2 kids under the age of 8, 1 boy, 1 girl. Girl's a big Disney princess type person, so you want her to have the whole princess experience that you would normally see on a Walt Disney World trip. But meet and greets aren't back yet. So this is their once-in-a-lifetime trip. Do you say go now or go in a couple months, or do you tell them to wait till everything's back?
Well,
What's
I
your
mean, the
advice?
thing is, I don't know when everything will be back. So,
Well, yeah, that's the question, right? So, like,
Right.
I mean, that's the difficulty of the conundrum, I guess, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, I think there's so many other things to do and so many other things to see that because they do have the cavalcade, so you at least see the princesses in some capacity.
I disagree. I didn't see any princesses when I went. I was very angry.
Well, I think
not
it's
really
timing.
angry, but-
I mean, I think it's timing
Yes.
because again, when I did the trip back in April, I saw very few cavalcades except at Hollywood Studios. So it just depends on the time. I think they're publishing the time in the Times guides now when they are. So
Yeah,
that
it's on the
helps.
tip board in your app, I think now.
Right now in the
with
Genie,
Genie, yeah.
right?
Yes.
But I mean, again, and also, at least at Magic Kingdom, usually at least they're meeting on the train station, right there, waving on Main Street. So there are those other opportunities to do it. So I would say yes, go.
Okay, fair enough. Dina, do you have a different opinion on that?
Well, no, I kind of agree with Willis. And I was going to say, even now with these sightings, I mean, you do have the princesses are, they are meeting back in the hall now. They're just not, like, you just can't, like, stand next to them. You're behind,
There's sightings.
they're behind a stanchion. So, but it's better than nothing. I was going to say, I think if this had been like a year ago, I would have said hold out and wait. Like when we went last November, I would have told people not to take a first time trip unless you were going to plan to go back again. Just knowing we went last November before park hopping reopened, like when it was like still like when they were still full skipping seats and rows and like all of that. We were there. And I would have said for a first-time family that unless you are planning to come back again in the future, don't take your first-time trip now. But now I think you can start planning that first-time trip and not really have an issue. So.
I'm right there with it. I think we're right on the edge of that. And Phil, I always say we're not going to go over in this show.
I think we're definitely going to go over it.
We're about almost halfway through the show, and we're not done with the news. This is great. This is what happens when you get 4 people who love Disney and are not afraid to talk about it. And Dina Wells, you've been amazing so far, and not afraid to share your opinions, which is
well. I mean, if you're
I don't have any adult beverages with me to make this even better. So that's the only thing. All right, let's get to the news. But what's next?
So I'll try to go through some of the next 2 a little quick. One that I thought was neat was I didn't mention it last time, but Disney announced that they're going to have a new float at the Thanksgiving Day parade. That is for Disney Cruise Line. So it looks like the Disney Wish, or like kind of a sort of cartoony version of the Disney Wish. Obviously have all the characters and stuff like that. But just announced was that Jordan Fisher, who is one of the singers from Happily Ever After, the main theme there.
What's Happily Ever After?
Oh, it's a show that happened thousands of years ago and that we'll never see again. But he is going to be performing an original Disney Cruise Line song titled Together We Set Sail. And he'll be performing it on the float on Thanksgiving Day. So I think that's kind of a neat little thing. And then the only other thing I was going to share was that holidays have started at Walt Disney World. We saw the decorations go up in the Magic Kingdom. I saw they already started the Jingle Cruise version of the Jungle Cruise. So I guess everybody got Halloween out of their system quickly.
Quick.
But
hold on, Phil.
Yeah.
Wasn't there usually like a 3 to 4 day period between like decoration? I could have sworn maybe it was the parties.
All the Halloween
was it the
stuff
parties?
comes down. The Halloween stuff comes down.
Yeah.
Parties.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking of. There was a delay in the parties, right? Like
there was 1
delay
year or something where they had like the last Halloween party was November 1st or something like that, and then they didn't do the decoration until after the parties. But normally it's whenever the Halloween's over, it's that evening they do all that. Yeah. I didn't realize Jingle Cruise started this early, and they already have some of the specialty foods out and stuff like that. So they're getting right into it. They did announce a lot of the holiday stuff, tons of stuff at Disney Springs, tons of food, desserts. Jock Lindsay's Holiday Bar, the makeover of the bar starting November 5th, and Minnie's Holiday Dine at Hollywood and Vine is also going to be starting. So lots of holiday things. I know a lot of people are going for the holidays. I think especially people that missed out last year, they're really gearing up. So they seem to be going pretty all out for the holidays this year. So I think that'll be nice for people.
I want to go around the table. Phil, you were saying Halloween decorations. You just put them up, so you might keep them out. This year, well, okay. 2 questions, 2-parter. When do you typically put up your Christmas decorations, and when are you putting them up this year, if they're different?
Yeah, so normally I put up my outside lights after Thanksgiving that weekend, and then we don't get our tree until mid-December because we do a live tree and we want it to last into January.
Okay.
I think I might put up the outside lights a little early. I guess we'll see when I have time. But I did get my Halloween decorations down today, so I did decide to do that.
Good for you. Dina, what's your plan usually?
I don't decorate and I don't celebrate Christmas, so I'm not a good.
Okay.
I'm not a good person to ask that question.
All right, Willis, do you celebrate Christmas? I should probably ask before I ask that question. I apologize. I'm making assumptions.
And so for me, traditionally in the past, I've usually put up my Christmas decorations around Thanksgiving, either the weekend before or the weekend after, depends on if I was traveling to visit family. This year, though, I'm probably going to put it up. I don't know if I'll do it this upcoming weekend, but I'm going to probably do it within the next week and a half. I don't decorate a lot, but I do put lights out, like icicle lights out. I put up a tree, which is primarily Disney ornaments, and so I do put that out. So
I'm with you, Willis, because typically we get our tree like the Friday or Saturday after Thanksgiving, and then over the weekend it's just like Disney. It's like everything is it's now Christmas-fied everywhere. But I bought a new house, and we moved last Christmas time, so we moved in our house December 12th. So everything I got basically, I mean, I love Christmas decorating around the house. I got deprived of the holiday season in my house last year, so I'm like, I have to start right after Halloween. So today's the first day after Halloween. I'm like, I have to do it now. Do I really have? So we're slowly playing. Do we do the outside lights first, and then slowly do? So I have to figure that out. I'm thinking about it. But I usually thought people were crazy by putting Christmas decorations when it's early November. But you know what?
I don't do a real tree either. I do an artificial tree, so I don't have to worry about it dying out on me.
We always have to go and cut down our tree, and my wife makes us do that, and I'd be okay with the artificial tree. It's definitely one of those things, going down to cut down your tree, that I think sounds better than the actual experience when it's like 20 degrees out and you're like trying to cut this tree on the ground. But
we do 2 trees. I bought an artificial tree a couple years ago, so I let my wife kind of do like her own Etsy version of the tree, so all like the ornaments match and whatever. We kind of put that, the kids can make some ornaments and kind of throw that up there. It's basically a tree with lights on it without much of anything. But then we do cut down our own tree. We've been doing that for about a decade now. And Phil, the trees last quite a bit. If you water them, they'll last you a good solid 40 days cut. So I mean, if you wanted to go earlier, you'll be fine. But it sounds like you're pretty happy.
Yeah, we have a plan. We're good.
You're happy with your plan. Do you want me to read the next to Twitter?
Yeah, you added this one, so why don't you take care of this one?
Yeah, so we mentioned this a couple weeks ago. There was a new Twitter account that popped up, and somebody linked it, and one of the first things I noticed was that Touring Plans follows it also. So
I think they were the first follower, which was interesting.
I'm thinking there's a connection.
Yeah.
Unconfirmed. But everybody that was watching saw it pop on the screen. But the tweet was, yesterday, 10:31, actual wait times for Disney World were 61% of what was actually posted on the line entrance. By park, Magic Kingdom was 60%, Epcot 55%, Hollywood Studios 69%, Animal Kingdom 56%. You could have expected to wait 12.7 minutes less than what they told you for each ride every time throughout the day. So the handle is Genie worth it? And I just love this because it's just because Phil and I we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. Like, now no one ever believed Disney's wait times anyway. Not that they were super accurate, and they also manipulated them a little bit. Now they're manipulated not just for crowd control, but for money. Right now, hey, buy this for us right now. Yep. Individual Lightning Lane Pass. So, Dina, are you going to use this type of app, or have you ever used like the Touring Plans like Lines app before?
I think I've used Touring Plans like way back in the day. I never paid for it, but I think I used it like, I know that Touring Plans is usually completely off for Disneyland. They're not, like, Disneyland has always not been great when it comes to
Disney World's their hometown. Yeah.
Disney World is their, and I think like the Disneyland app version didn't really work. But I have noticed since the reopening, this has been a problem at Disneyland too, is that the wait times have been vastly off from what they actually are. And I don't know what Disneyland's problem might be because they're giving the wait times based upon where the wait would have been if the Fast Pass or the now Lightning Lane had been in use. I have noticed that at Disneyland, what would have been a 60-minute wait for Incredicoaster based upon where the line actually physically started was not a 60-minute wait because you weren't pulling a 9-to-1 ratio out of the other lane. So there's a bit of that going on. I didn't pay for Genie Plus on this past trip. I didn't have any full days in the park except for the day we did the tour. So we didn't really need it that day. And I had the free thing through D23, but I got in too late on my arrival day for myself to make use of it. Willis did pay for it that opening day, so he got some usage out that day. But we've had some friends that have been having issues where they haven't been able to buy it. And they were still having issues like 5 or 6 days after launch. I don't know where that stands right now. And I may use it on an upcoming trip, but it's only going to be if I have a full day in the park and it's like a Saturday or Sunday. That's the only time I can see it being advantageous to spend the money.
I think, Phil, we need to have a show about people using Genie Plus and when it's worth the money. I don't want to dive into that right now, Tina, as much as I would love to, but we're going to extend the show another hour based on that topic because it's all about planning and theorizing all this stuff, which is conversations I can get carried away with. All right, Phil, I'm going to carry on with Attraction Night, but why don't you wrap up the news with...
Yeah, so thanks for listening to all the news and thanks for all the contributions. Reminder of our social media accounts, Twitter @PodDBC, Instagram, the DBC Podcast, Facebook, DBC Pod, the YouTube channel, which again... hit that subscribe button, and our Discord server.
Yes, and this week's attractionality is living with the landfill's favorite attraction on property. Disney likes to describe it as a taste of the future. See firsthand how Walt Disney World horticulturalists are using innovative growing techniques and crossbreeding high-yield crops to feed a growing planet. Discover a cornucopia of fruits and veggies from around the world, some modifying a jaw-dropping effect. Feast your eyes on edible food crops from around the world. Glimpse hybrid striped bass, tilapia, catfish, and freshwater shrimp in our fish farm. On this eye-opening tour, you'll be inspired by a hopeful vision of farming's future. Now, Phil, I mean, can I just safe to say that you just gave this all 5?
I did not.
Oh, okay. This is going to be an interesting segment then. This is just not going to be okay. So, in the sake of time, because Dina Wills, I really want to hear about your trip, and that's what probably everybody might be most interested in, and not living with the land attractionality. So, we're going to go through. I'm going to select why everybody's going to get a question. There's 4 questions. Phil, I'm going to start with you. Question number 1, Phil, how much do you like the concept of this attraction, a quasi-dark ride in a boat through an educational scenes and farming examples on a scale of 1 to 5?
Yeah, so this one I did give it a 5. I love the idea of this. I love it. It reminds me, it's probably the attraction that's most like classic Epcot that was there. So the idea of showing you what the future is and how it can be better, but also kind of talking through the past. And you have a boat ride and there's animatronics and there's cool things that change all the time. There's a million hidden Mickeys in it. So I think the concept is great.
So, Dean, I'm going to go to you. Question number 2.
Mm-hmm.
How well, on a scale of 1 to 5, how well do you think it's a living with the land delivers for its target audience? And you can interpret target audience any way you can think of.
Kind of, I think I'm going to go with a 4. Okay. I think, I don't know. I love the attraction. It's always like it's a must do if I've got time when I'm at Epcot. But I think it's, I don't know who its target audience actually is. Like, is it target audience me, the adult, or is its target audience meant to be the child? I don't.
Whoever you think it is. Your target audience is basically a broad audience of people that want to learn about farming.
Yeah, it's definitely informative. I wish the audio would change up a bit when you get into the greenhouse, because like this past time there were different things growing in both sections of the greenhouse than the last time I rode back in April. So I wish that they would kind of highlight a bit of what they're growing, but
I would call the target audience probably older children and younger teens before you're you get kind of bored of those type of things. Like once you hit 15 or 16, you might be kind of waiting to go on something else, or trying to see if you can sneak a beer in World Showcase and get kicked out of Walt Disney World at the age of 16. I don't know. I give this a 2 for target audience because I think it's rather dated, and I think they can do a better job. I love the concept, right? I mean, I gave the concept a 3, but I think for me a 3, by the way, is like it's spot on, and it's not overly amazing or less so. But I give this a 2 just because I think it needs some touching up. Because I think it can, if you spruce it up a little bit, you can get Phil's concept like through the roof. If you use current technology and stuff like that, so you really have to look out for like the current farming techniques and seeing how things are done and kind of do that. Willis, I'm going to give you question number 3. This is how much do you personally enjoy living with the land on a scale of 1 to 5?
Well, this is actually one of the attractionalities I actually did vote on, and so I actually ranked it. Did this one as a 4. I actually like it. I mean, it's not something I have to do every single trip to Epcot, but this last trip, I did Soarin' and then immediately went over to Living with the Land and did it, and I enjoy it. I do agree with Dina though that they do need to update it periodically. I think they lose a lot by not having the live, captain or the narrate person there on the boat giving the narration, because they could then hit on new things that they're doing. So, but I actually like it. It's also a good time just to relax and be off your feet and just re-energize for a bit.
I'm totally with you. Phil. Did you not? I mean, what were your scores? Okay. I'm assuming question 4 is a 5. Do you?
Yes, I think that pretty much fits perfectly. Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, I was making it sound like I gave it all 2s or something like that, but no, it's just question 2. I only gave it a 4, largely because I think there are things they could update to it to make it to improve it. I mean, some of the things Willis talked about, even just towards the end now, when they just sort of have those pictures that flash on and off, like you could update that and make it more exciting. Like there's little things they could do to update it that would make it better. It's kind of like Spaceship Earth. It's a great ride, but there's things you could do that make it better, and also things you had in the past that were better, like the live cast member that used to record it, like the song they used to have, Living with the Land, or Listen to the Land, that was amazing. So I can't give it a 5 when I can name like 5 things that I would change about it. So.
It's, to me, like, you have nostalgia for this ride because you were at Epcot in the 80s and 90s when Epcot was still fresh and new, right? Now it being close to 30 years old, the kids that are seeing it for the first time, they don't have nostalgia, and their parents barely have nostalgia unless you're an acolyte of Epcot like you are, Phil. Daring your children not to love this ride, right? You're like, you will like this, or we're riding it again and again and again. And that's it. But I think they could update this and a lot of the other rides at Epcot, even if it is the educational type of rides, that type of thing. It just needs to look like it's not from the 80s. It needs to look like it's from current day, and I think it'll much more people will enjoy it. There is a follow-up question, Phil, that you put on here. I let you do this. Would you want to see an IP connected or host with a narrator to add to this? And if so, who? Phil, you probably have something in mind. I don't have any answer for question.
Yeah, we were talking about this a bit on Discord, saying, could they add IP to this attraction? Would that help? And we also kind of were going back to when there was a cast member on and kind of signaling things out and stuff like that. So we were trying to think what intellectual property could fit with this, about, the land and being sustainable and stuff like that. So the character I thought of, which would be, I don't know how they would actually pull it off, but I thought Wally would be an interesting character to add to it. And you could have some of like the narrators, like some of the voices from the ship or whatever from Wally, and have Wally point out like different ways to be, more that you could recycle and things like that. So I think
that's
something
an
like
excellent
that
idea.
Could, we wouldn't have to drastically change the ride, but I think would make, people find it a little bit more interesting and just breathe a little new life into it. And then I think I fully agree with what Dina said, was as they change things, make the audio that you can update it so that when things change, you can change that in the audio as well.
Dina, Willis, do you have a better idea than Wally? Because I don't think you could beat that. I think that's be the only acceptable IP character that you can add to that without being like shoehorning Elsa in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, it was
floating on the
like
land.
Wally and Eve were like the only two that I could think of as being like appropriate in terms of like that would actually not be out of place.
Other than like Farmer Mickey, right? You know.
Well,
just
I
kinda-
mean,
Yeah.
I went really deep cut here. I was thinking Home on the Range because it's all about being on the ranch and you're growing food and stuff. That's a really deep cut. That
Well, somebody
I like
threw out
Wall-E
the
better.
good dinosaur because they actually at the beginning of that movie they're farming as dinosaurs. Like I don't know, that seems a pretty deep cut too. But
I think
Right, but
Wall-E
Phil,
is
you
the
can
best
take
one though.
yours, and it's after they've gotten back to the planet
Yeah.
and they're trying to reestablish society and growing things. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great logical fit.
all right, well we've
No
solved
doubt
it.
about it. Yes. Okay.
I'll give Josh tomorrow a
If
call.
Disney's listening,
Yeah.
Okay, we're 40 minutes into this episode, and we're just getting to the main reason why we have Dina Willis. Okay, so Dina, you were there from the 19th to the 25th of October. Willis, you were there from the 16th to the 24th. And on the 20th, so Dina, this was your first full day there, and Willis, this is kind of right in the middle of your vacation. You guys
yeah, it
did
was
a
my
VIP
last full
tour.
day at Disney before I.
Oh,
flipped
you were
over
doing
to
Universal, right?
that night for Halloween Horror Nights.
Okay, first I need to ask, what made you either think or want to do a VIP tour? Was this spur of the moment? Was this massively planned for like a year in advance? Like, what are we talking about here?
It
We
was
got
2
to back
years in the
up
making.
to August of 2019.
Oh, okay. 2 years.
So I guess I'll tell the story. We were in Disney World for the big Disney. We were there. Phil was there. A bunch of.
I was there too,
I
but
think you were there. Okay, I didn't.
I was, and I wasn't at the event. I was there with my
we
family
just found out
somewhere
we
else
were
on
at-
property.
Okay. All right, so we were all there, like we were all together. Like we went on an Illuminations cruise that week with Phil and with Judy and with
That's awesome.
we were there with a whole group of friends. And so it was the Saturday morning. It was the day the event was at night. I think it was a Saturday morning or was it Friday morning?
No, it was Saturday because
It was Saturday morning. It was the day of the event. I had made a comment about wanting to go to Character Warehouse, and Willis was like, "Sure, I'll go with you." So we go to Character Warehouse, and they opened at 10. We go in. I find something that I'm going to buy, and I want to put in the Diz auction that they're doing in November. But I don't want to carry this thing home. So I then comment, like, let's go check out the auction room. So we go over there. I hand the thing off to them, so I don't have to carry this thing home. And we knew that they were going to be auctioning something off live that morning. We didn't know what. They just kept commenting it's going to be exciting. So we're in there and we're going to hang around until they start this auction. Because I think the auction was going to be at like 11. This all happened in the course of like an hour, essentially. We were at a Character Warehouse by like 10:15. We drove back to property. I was staying at Bay Lake Tower, so we were able to park right there, walk over to the auction room. I don't remember the whole thing, but I egged Willis on, so I'll let Willis tell the rest of the story.
Yeah,
of that
so
morning.
John Magi, he was sort of doing this live auction, and again, he was being very cryptic on what it was, but he said it was well worth it. And so people started bidding, and Pete and a few others were bidding, and then they started explaining a little bit more about what it was, and eventually we found out it was a VIP tour for 6 hours, and basically, we're standing behind Kevin, and once we know it's a VIP tour, we're starting to ask questions like, what are the blackout dates? How long do we have to redeem this? Because if we have only 6 months or so to do it, that may not work it. And so, Kevin's asking those questions, and finally it gets up to about $3,000, and that's when Pete buys it, and then whoever he was bidding against, they got one as well. Then John said, "Oh wait, we have another one." And then someone else gets it, and then said, "Oh wait, we have another." And so Dina and I are like back and forth talking, and I finally raised my hand and said, because again, it was a fundraiser for
Good cause.
Kids the World. Yeah,
Yep.
Kids the World.
So, and I was gonna say we had bowed out. I think we got to 3 and we had bowed out, and they'd gotten up to about $3,500 with the first one, and then it kept coming out as when the first one got rid of it. One came out, they had one more that Pete took.
And this is
out,
all
they had
per
another
person,
one.
right?
Yeah.
Like you
Per
guys
person,
are,
yeah.
they're not
They
couples
raised-
or
they raised-
two people
no,
tickets
they
or
raised,
whatever.
They well, no, it was $3,000 for one tour. So the tour was good for up to 10 people.
So
okay.
They did 4 tours with the equivalent
Four
of
tours,
$12,000. They raised
Ah,
$12,000.
gotcha. Yes, okay.
Yeah, basically they raised $12,000 for Give Kids the World. And I will preface this as we go into the details of our day. This was a travel agency award tour that Dreams had won through selling a certain amount of travel. So it was 6 hours. A typical tour is a 7-hour minimum. The day that we went, if we had paid straight cash to Disney, it was $575 an hour.
Yeah.
And once you get past the 7-hour mark, it's a 15-minute increment. So if you decide you want to go for 7.5 hours, you don't have to take the full 8th hour. You pay for 7.5 hours, or 7.25. And another note is that we didn't do any nighttime entertainment, and if you want to do nighttime entertainment with the tour, you have to still be on your tour when the nighttime entertainment starts. So it could be that if fireworks are at 8, your tour can end at 8 and you are allowed to be in the firework viewing area. But if your tour ends at 7, you won't be able to do the firework viewing area. So that's just a word of note.
Right. And there are blackout dates, etc. Now with the travel agent version that we did, they could only book it 45 days in advance. So we originally had planned to do this trip a year ago this past May, right in the midst of when, after COVID had hit. And, so again, we obviously couldn't because the parks were closed. So then when we did our November trip last year, they hadn't started back with the VIP tours quite yet, or maybe they just had.
They had, but we decided it wasn't worth it at that time to do it. We didn't need it then, so we decided to.
Were they doing VIP tours?
Yeah, they were. They started them, but you couldn't park hop, and so we just didn't feel like.
This one was earlier this year that did that. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So then we had our April trip that we did earlier this year, and unfortunately, because they could only book it 45 days in advance, all the dates had been picked, so we couldn't do it back in April. But then we were talking, and Dina was coming out for October, and I decided I wanted to do Halloween Horror Nights for the 30 years and celebrate my birthday and everything, and
happy birthday,
early for Dina, and so we said, okay, we'll try one time. And John was being very, very nice and was very much willing to work with us. At one point, he was willing to give me my money back because of all the hassle we'd gone through. But we thought we'd try this one more time. We set up the date, and they assured him that he'd have a way to check, and he did, and he was able to get our date for us.
Nice.
So we, worked with our friends that were going to go, and we picked the time to sort of accommodate everybody. And
you said there was 10. It was for 10 people.
You can up to 10 people. Up to 10. There were 6 of us
nice, okay.
total, plus the guide. So there were 4 of us at the start, and we had 2 friends that met us about partway in, just with some timing issues.
Let's not jump ahead. I want to start from the beginning because this is something I love hearing about this type of stuff. So, when do you start your tour?
Well, okay. So again, we talked about what we wanted to do. So we decided for this trip, we wanted to map things out to be strategic with hitting certain rides, travel time, because you have to take that into account because that will eat into your 6 hours. And so we decided that we were going to start in Animal Kingdom, go to Magic Kingdom, come back to Epcot, and then to Hollywood Studios.
Oh, you could go like multiple parks and do this type of thing. You're not staying at one. Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
But to Willis's point, the travel time, you're paying for that travel time. So the more
of course.
The more you jump for parks, the less.
But they have a van.
Caveat, yeah. We were in a passenger van, and we came in from backstage. We left and came in backstage each time. The only time you come in on stage is your very first park entrance. You have to enter, unless they pick you up at a hotel. You have to enter on stage, and then you meet your guide either in the park or they will pick you up at a hotel at the valet. So we opted to start at Animal Kingdom. And another thing, we didn't stop for a meal on this trip or on this tour. We went for a large breakfast that morning at Tusker House, which I thought was really good. And then started our tour at 10 a.m. Just to not eat into any of our tour time, to stop for a larger meal.
Yep.
So.
Right. Again, part of the factor was I wanted to get to Universal that night for my first night of Halloween Horror Nights, and so if we would have started the tour later, that would have really ate into my time there. So that's
let me ask this question. So, Dina, this was your first full day there, correct? You used the 19th as your travel date.
Yeah.
Well, this is your last date on at Disney before you transition to your Universal board. Looking back, would you prefer to do whose timing was better? Is it better at the early part of your stay or the latter part of your stay? Because you both did at the beginning and the end, right? So, in your opinion, if somebody was going to do this, do you want to do this at the first part of your vacation, then have the rest of your stay to kind of do something, or is this kind of like a nice cherry on top to a long vacation that you're at Disney?
I think it's going to depend. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not a good person to judge on this because I will caveat this trip. I didn't take every day off of work, so it was my only full day in the parks. It wasn't Saturday or Sunday. Then I was at Universal on those days. So I was working on Thursday and Friday, so it was just the only date. The date we picked had to do with overlap between our vacation dates, and it also had to do with when our friends had their days off of work.
We had
a lot of mitigating factors that had us land on that particular date over a different.
Okay, but let me rephrase the question then, Dina. You just won the lottery. You took off a month off of work. You're doing your Disney vacation for just, let's say, a week. Would you plan? You're paying for the VIP tour, cash in hand. Do you do it at the beginning or the end of your vacation, or in the middle?
I would do it either the beginning or towards the middle because like we were on the ground running that day, and I don't know if I'd be by the end of my trip. Time. Yeah, it was just.
What about you,
a
Willis?
lot of walking that day. So
right, I mean, and the thing is, you have to look at once you've done a VIP tour and you've gone basically. You're ushered through all the lightning lane things, and you're pretty much getting on things backstage, and it's a much different experience. And so it reminds me of the Blackish episode where they did a VIP tour and then they had to go back out into the general area with everybody else. It's sort
with
of like
all the dirty plebs like me.
Yeah,
waiting in standby.
It's a different feeling. So I mean, I like the fact that we did it the very last day of my trip. But like Dina said, it is a lot of walking, especially the way we planned it out. So it can be very exhausting, for your last day. So, you just have to look at what really your schedule and really what fits for you and what your intentions are. Because you can go on as many rides as you want within that time lot, and you can repeat rides as much as you want as well. And so you could go on Frozen Ever After 15 times if you
do. You have to get off, or can you just keep running it through?
I don't know.
You have to get off.
Well, some rides you have to get off. But
the only ride they can't repeat right now is Rise of the Resistance. They can only do once, and I don't know if that's the case with Ratatouille. It might be. Those are the only two that I think they can only do once.
All right, we need to get it back on track because I'm jumping all over the place. Okay, so you started 10 o'clock in the morning at Animal Kingdom. Yep. Give me your step-by-step Animal Kingdom in that leg of the trip. You were there from 10 o'clock to how long?
Well, I don't know specific times, but
about 11. We were there maybe about an hour.
Okay, about an hour or so.
We also started about 10, 15 minutes late because we were waiting on one of our friends to arrive, and they were running a little bit late.
For 15 minutes.
Yeah. So we met our guide. Her name is Joelle at the where the PhotoPass store is. We met her just outside their Animal Kingdom. That is the meeting spot for inside of Animal Kingdom. We met up with her. We had to sign a waiver. That was the first thing that we had to do. And then we kind of told her our ideas for the day of where we wanted to go. And she made some suggestions that we cut out 2 rides off our list kind of there in the morning, neither of which were at Animal Kingdom. So we'll get to those when we get to those other parks. And we kind of told her what we wanted to do. We wanted to ride Everest and we wanted to do Pandora. So we went off and walked over to Everest to start with because the van to leave was closer to Pandora than it would have been to Everest. Okay. So we kind of came back around. So we went and we rode Everest, and then did we ride Navi first? Or we ride Flight first. I don't remember.
No, we did Flight first, and then Navi. Okay.
So we went and rode Flight of Passage, and then we went and rode Navi River Journey. For those 3 rides, we were walked on through the Fast Pass lane. One thing that she warned us was that there may be some waits the day before, because the day before was the day that the Lightning Lane launched. The tours were taking a little bit longer to get through the Lightning Lanes. However, The day that we went, we did not encounter any of that. We think they had worked out some of those kinks overnight in terms of movement. And
with Flight, we did go through all the pre-shows, so it's as
you have to, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, they've now returned to all the pre-shows in all of their attractions. So so we did that. Rode Navi. We got We got B mode shaman.
We got B mode shaman, which we were, and the funny thing is we were commenting about B mode as we're coming around the corner, and sure enough, it's B mode. I never had B mode on that ride before, so we were all excited. So
the poor people in the front row.
Yeah, poor people in front of us had to hear us talking about that. So we got off of that, and then we went to the van. I don't remember which direction the van was in. I don't remember if it was back by Festival Lion King. Or
yeah, that's typically where it is. It's back in that area,
yeah.
Festival Lion King, behind that building.
So we walked out, we got into the van, our guide drives the van, and we took off for Magic Kingdom, and we were over at Magic Kingdom a little after 11.
So you were able, for the first hour, you had a nice breakfast at Animal Kingdom, so you got there earlier. Obviously, you kind of enjoyed your slow morning, you loaded up on your carbs, and you hit up 3 rides, no nonsense. Do you get any, like... interaction where like there's storytelling or behind the scenes stories, or is it like all like business? We're like, okay, we're going here. I'm just your line leader at this point.
Not well, because remember really. we're seasoned enough, and we also had 3 friends on the trip that were cast members.
And our 3 friends that were with us are also cast members. So, the 4 other people that were with us, 3 are current cast members, and 1 is a former cast member.
They didn't need it then.
It was a little bit different. The type of conversations that we were having were more like operational standpoint.
Sure.
Right, because Joelle thought Joelle actually thought we were all travel agents because of the type of tour that we had, but we let her know that we weren't, and so not that really changed anything, but I think it set her level of her expectation.
So you were there just to get on some rides and have a good time.
Yeah, that was the point of this.
That was the point of it. So.
It was a commando for rides.
Okay, so Magic Kingdom, how long were you got there at around 11-ish? What time did you leave Magic Kingdom?
Joelle goes
a little over an hour, I think.
Yeah,
that's
Joelle
it.
Goes, we want ice cream, so we got ice cream bars.
All right, nice.
So we pull in at Magic Kingdom. The guides don't park the van. The vans get valeted. So we pulled up. There was another group right behind us that had followed us out of Animal Kingdom and had also gone to Magic Kingdom. Van pulled up behind us. Same thing. Their guide got out, went and got them whatever Mickey bars they wanted, also brought us water, and then we walked on stage. We basically went through the rides we wanted to do. We started with the one that was furthest away, which was Haunted Mansion, from where we were going to be coming back to leave. So we walked out to Haunted Mansion. At Haunted Mansion, it's one of the 2 rides that we did that they use a backdoor entrance for, that you don't go through the lightning lane. So there's a backdoor entrance. They basically take you into the waiting room before the 2 stretching rooms, essentially. And we got some pixie dust here that doesn't normally happen even on a VIP tour, because they were backed up on the other side of the elevators. We got a private elevator because we were a group of 4 guests plus a guide. So they didn't load anybody else in with us. That normally does not happen. It was just we got lucky. It was very cool because we wouldn't have to be quiet when we were saying the spiel. And
of course,
and for those of you who watched the Muppet Haunted Mansion, we went the goat.
If you haven't, if anybody else listening hasn't watched that yet, even though Halloween's over, you have to watch that. It's probably one of the best things on Disney Plus outside of maybe The Mandalorian, I think.
And then when we got out of the elevator, we actually hung over to the right, and we actually went through the chain area and bypassed everybody else that was there, in line waiting to get on.
Yeah.
So
I know what you're talking about now. Yep.
It's all the way to the right. So
and that happened at 1 or 2 other locations where we didn't have to wait on the other side of the pre-show. That was one of them. So then we rode. I will say our guide was allowed to ride rides with us. She chose not to ride unless we were odd numbered on anything, where she wouldn't be taking up a whole other vehicle or row.
Okay.
So she didn't ride. I think she rode stuff with us at Hollywood Studios. It was the only place where she got onto any of the rides.
Well, let's not jump ahead. So Hollywood Studios, the first ride that you went to at Magic Kingdom, what was next?
So after
Haunted Mansion,
we went to Peter Pan.
Peter Pan, and our 2 friends that didn't join us first thing in the morning met us outside of Peter Pan. So they met us over there, signed their waivers.
Party's now complete.
Right.
Party's now complete. We did Peter Pan, and then we went over to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And as we were walking over, one of our friends mentioned that she wanted, there was some special, was it a Snow White ice cream or a Tangled ice cream?
Yeah, over the Friar Nook or something.
There's a Snow White one right now.
Yeah,
okay, so I think even the Snow White one that she wanted to try this. And one of the things that the guide will do is because she wasn't riding with us, is if you give her your credit card or the money, they will go and pick up whatever snack something like that, where you have to pay for it while you're on the ride. So our guide went and did that for us as we were riding Seven Dwarfs, came back, our friend got her ice cream and she ate it as we were walking off to Space Mountain. So we went and did Space. I think
and not
only 3 of us.
funny thing is, only the girls went on Space Mountain.
Yeah.
The guys, we all bailed on it.
All 3 guys sat out. So yeah. And the one nice thing is that like the guide, she would take depending upon what we were going on, she would keep our bags, so we didn't have to take our bags onto the ride. So like at Animal Kingdom, I think she did it for all 3 rides.
Yeah, she did.
But like at I was gonna say at Magic Kingdom, I don't think she only did it for some of them, not all of them. It just depended upon what we were doing, if she was going to get snacks for anybody. And then after we did Space, we did Buzz. And one of the things she mentioned to us, I don't remember where this came up in the conversation, was at Magic Kingdom, you can get Starbucks on your way out, basically like delivered, and you basically pay for it when they deliver it. So she took the Starbucks orders while we were in line for Space Mountain, because we were only going to do one more ride before we left. So,
right. So what we did is you enter through the bypass, the really designed bypass, which goes behind the Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
And so the cast member came out with our orders that we had placed, and and I gave them my credit card or debit card and paid for it. And then I got the receipt, and we were off to go.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, I'm thinking we should start a business where all we do is we go buy Starbucks for people in line at Walt Disney World, and that's all we do. We're basically Uber Eats inside a park. I don't know.
That would work, or even just beers and cocktails over at Hollywood Studios when you're in line for Rise of Resistance or something.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
how much we were doing some rides, she was talking to another tour guide and found out, because going to Epcot is probably one of the worst ones for the guides, because typically they have to park over behind Canada, and I think
we parked behind Canada. They normally have to park by Soarin', and we were only going there to ride Ratatouille. So the goal was if we could park closer to Ratatouille, the better. So
she was able to figure out a way to do it.
So so we're now 2 hours into your tour, right? So you started at 10. We're right around noon. You've done Haunted Mansion, Peter Pan, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Space Mountain, and now Buzz.
Buzz, it's probably closer. I'm guessing it's probably a little closer to 12:30, because it was about 1 o'clock by the time we got to Epcot. So
so you got your coffees or or whatever's, your iced teas.
Yeah.
You're caffeined up. You're heading over to Epcot just for Ratatouille. So it takes you a little bit to get over there. How did you like Ratatouille, by the way?
I'd ridden it the day before with a virtual queue, and it's cute. I like it. I think it would do better without the 3D, because the 3D limits your view of all the screen and all the sets, and you really can. There's a lot more to see.
Yeah. I'll second that. It'd be nice to see it not in 3D, just to take in all of the actual sets, not just
because the actual sets are pretty awesome, right? Everything's giant in there, right?
They're pretty cool.
It's cute. It's
a really cute ride. That was my first time riding it on the tour, because it was my first day basically in the park to do rides. The night we had come in, we just did the 2 fireworks shows, so I didn't do any rides on my arrival day. So it was really cute. And it was nice getting over there that we didn't have to wait very long. The only thing is, I didn't get to see the 2 things that are viewable in the queue that everybody's been posting pictures of. I did get to see those later on my trip, because I did the virtual queue. You bypass those through the lightning lane, but
you can see it through like a window, but that's about the extent of it.
But it was quick and easy to get on. So we did that, and we came in on stage where that Millennium, where the building they used during the festivals is, basically in between Canada and the UK.
The World Celebration, right?
Yes, the World Celebration
for the Millennium
building.
Yeah.
So
so you're at Epcot probably for like 40 minutes then, right? Enough to walk over.
I think
not even.
I would guess maybe 20 minutes on stage. We quickly walked out. We were on and off the ride within 10 minutes, and quickly walked back to the car.
So I'm assuming you're ready to get out of Epcot by like 1:30ish.
It's probably getting closer to 2, I think, probably by then.
Okay,
I think
so
it's
now
closer to 2.
So we're at
Yeah,
4
I
hours.
mean-
We got 2 hours left, right, of your tour.
Right, but we push through it because again we go from there. We get back to the van. We go direct over to Hollywood Studios fairly quickly because of where we are.
It's right there.
And then from there where you park is sort of there behind Tower of Terror. And so
it's in between. You come on stage in between.
Well, before you get to that, I have a question.
Yeah.
Leading up to Hollywood, getting to Hollywood Studios, what is the most amount of parks you've done in one day at Walt Disney World prior to this? Have you done all four parks?
We've done all four
so
parks.
this is nothing new for you
regularly
guys.
do that. It's not new. I do that.
It's more challenging now with the park pass reservations, and you can't transfer until 2. But
Right.
Dean and I, on one of our previous trips, we did all 4 parks and rode an attraction in each park.
Okay, so now you're just saying, how much can I do with this VIP? Like, what are some of the speed records?
What we didn't do, I forgot to mention, what we didn't do at Magic Kingdom was Big Thunder. That was the one
Big
ride
Thunder
that we
was the
didn't.
only ride we cut out there, and it was just a distance thing because it's all the way on the other side of the park.
You have to go around the river
you have
and
to
stuff.
go to Frontierland and then come back. So if we had had a 7-hour tour, the 2 rides we cut out, we could have left in and would have been fine. But with the 6 hours, we had to cut out Big Thunder, and then over at Hollywood Studios, we had to cut out Toy Story Midway Mania. It was the only thing we cut out there.
Okay, so you're parking by Tower of Terror, you said, right?
And Rock and Roller Coaster, right in that area.
Tower of Terror, yeah.
Okay, so what did you do first?
We did Rock and Roller. Yeah, we did Rock and Roller, and I bowed out on that one.
So Joelle actually rode with us because she likes the ride, and because Willis wasn't riding, her taking a seat meant there were only 6 of us, so Willis kept her bags because he didn't ride. So
I just want to say I brought my daughter on that ride for the first time, and she's 8, and she was literally shaking the whole time. I had to put my hand on her knee, and then she immediately went and did it with my wife right afterwards. She said, "This is the most amazing ride I've ever been on." So thumbs up for my 8-year-old daughter.
Yeah, it was the one ride when I was we only went to Disney World once when I was a kid. I was 10, and it was the ride. We had park hoppers. It was the park we kept going back to specifically to ride that ride. So
nice.
Yeah.
And then when we got done with that one, we went to Tower of Terror.
Yeah.
And this is one where we walked up the Fast Pass line. We go through the pre-show, we're in the room, but then we actually cut through another area and got quicker to the line in the boiler room.
When you come out of and I'll back up a second because I need to mention what we saw when we were in the Fast Pass lane. When you come yes, we'll come back to that. When you come out of the elevators and you go down into the hallway, you basically normally take a left and then you go straight and you split off into the 2 splits. There is there's like a cast member only authorized sign on like a little gate. Basically, there's a small set of stairs. We went up those stairs and then got straight loaded into the front row of got placed for front row of an elevator. And the guy got to ride with us because that seat's 7 across, so she was able to go on with us. While we were in the Lightning Lane, we were talking about it, and then we saw it. Goofy comes and meets guests outside on the Lightning Lane side of the terrace area as you're walking into the building. Well, Goofy and Max were out there, and they
I don't know
were
if you can see
joking
it,
around. Yeah, he's got
a little bit.
He can send the picture if we want to put it in your show notes.
Phil can tweet it out.
Yeah, so we were we got to have a little character interaction with them, which was nice.
That's fun.
So,
we saw Goofy and Max when we were there. That was the only real character interaction because they were by Echo Lake, right across from where you can get the Jack Daniel's slushy by Echo Lake, and they were kind of like this little cutout part in the park, and the kids were able to get very close to them within a couple feet. That was the only characters we saw at Hollywood Studios that day outside of Galaxy's Edge stuff. That's cool. So, okay, so you're Rock and Roller Coaster. You jet over to Tower of Terror. You knock that one off your list. Where are you going after that? Because you still probably have another hour and 15 minutes or so.
Well, yeah,
right?
we're starting to run out of time.
An hour. We're starting to run out. We are down to being in the last hour at this point. By the time we did both of those rides, we had used the bathrooms. We maybe had about 45 minutes left. And one big thing that ate some time was we went straight over. Excuse me. We went over to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and we had gotten, that was the only place we had a backup in the Lightning Lane, was there, and we think it's because the ride had gone down at some point, and had just come back online. So that took a little bit of waiting. I think we probably had about a 10-15 minute wait for that, I'm going to guess.
Maybe about closer to 10, but still, even with that one, we still had to go through the pre-show. and saw the video.
And neither of us had you had been
Y'all
on that he had on the trip, but I hadn't done the pre-show at all because
It's the best.
both of my trips had been after the ride, after COVID, basically. So the pre-show wasn't running in November or in April, and I didn't get to ride. I had been there when the ride was in previews, but the cast member previews weren't open for them to bring friends, so I didn't get to go at that point. So I had never seen the pre-show, so that was really cool for me. It was probably one of the coolest things. That was the other big highlight was doing that and riding Ratatouille.
I think that's one of the best pre-shows outside of Peter Pan on property because my 3-year-old was like, "We're in a cartoon now." We're like she like totally bought into it, and it was just like it was awesome. And I thought it was.
And
cleverly
I think
done.
it's a much better reveal than how the door works in Enchanted Tales with Belle. It was a much cooler effect. So yeah, we did that, and then we went from there to Slinky Dog.
And that one we had no wait on that.
There was no wait up at Slinky, and the queue wasn't even spilling out onto the bridge, which was really surprising.
No kidding.
So yeah, so we did Slinky, and then we were in the last 10 minutes of time. We went straight from Slinky to Falcon. Falcon only has one touch point, so the guides use their device that they have to basically tap you in because they have to track where you go. So for Falcon, there's only a touch point at the bottom. So essentially, what Joelle did was she tapped us in, we said goodbye, and then we walked up on our own to go ride Falcon.
So the time ends with the last touch, and you're like, okay, your tour's over. I allowed you in, and then they're gone, and now you're on your own.
We discreetly gave her tip, and then we were trying to do Chewy mode, so I kind of got up the bridge and then pulled off to the side to try and figure out who was going to sit where and all of that. Long story short, we were not successful.
To get Chewy mode, yes.
To get Chewy mode, so we had a regular ride. We tried, but I think something happened behind us. Me and Willis were the pilots, and we don't know if something went wrong with the gunners and the engineers, but we know it was one of the four of them based upon commentary that was happening when we got off because they all got a little confused.
Because you have a very short window of time, and it's very specific things you have to do to try to get Chewy mode. So
I'm going. Like I said, we're going in February. My sister and brother-in-law, they are this year. They're annual pass holders. They're DVC members. They've been DVC for almost 20 years now. Not 20 years. 12 to 15 years. Anyway. There's going to be enough of us where I think we can actually have enough competent people on Falcon that aren't 3-year-old or 4-year-old children that are just mashing pretty colors. That we're going to try to go for a high score. My son insisted. My 6-year-old insisted that he can drive the Millennium Falcon. I have videos. I mean, I'm the biggest Star Wars nerd in the world. I mean, and I have him pulling down the lever to go into hyperspace and like that, and me cheering like, yes, let's go. I mean, everybody likes to dump on Falcon because it's just screens and whatever. That's the most entertaining ride I think ever, just because of my excitement level being in the Millennium Falcon. It works, and everybody that doesn't like it, they can get bent. That's just my opinion.
It's fun. I've had some not so great rides when I've done single rider. And one happened on this trip where I was in a vehicle that kept smashing into everything.
That's no fun.
I didn't know that I had gunners that weren't pressing buttons. It was a rough ride. We thankfully did not slam into the container because I knew how to hit the brake in time because it is a visual cue, not an auditory cue. If you hear the auditory cue, you will slam into it.
Right, because Dina, when you and I did this back during COVID, it was just the two of us, and even with just two people, it was a very rough ride.
Yeah,
I mean, like my wife and my 2 little kids were driving, so I mean, we were smashing into everything. So, but when it's your wife or your 6-year-old son, you don't mind running into everything. But I can imagine if you're doing solo queue type of thing, you're just rolling your eyes, you're going. Can you slow down? Go left. Go. No, you're doing it.
We're not big into everything. We got pretty close. Our end score was just shy of 10,000. And basically, if you hit 10,000, that means that you've done really well. You basically want your final score after the deductions to be over 10. So we were at 9,000 and pretty high 9,000s. I don't know if I took a picture of it. I'm going to look. I may have. I don't remember. And after we did that, we got some luck outside with some friends, and we got to we got to go through the lightning lane for Rise of the Resistance. I won't divulge anymore, but we got lucky. So that was kind of at the end of the day at the parks.
Very nice.
So yeah.
Well, when you walked on to Falcon, that's 6 hours. So you're looking at 4:00 in the afternoon, then, right, at Hollywood Studios. And basically
about 5:00, a little before 5, when we got off of Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah, because I did an order for Docking Bay 7 to get something to eat before I headed off property.
Because you're off to go to Universal at this point. You got split. Dina, did you head over with Willis over Universal, or did you go back and kind of do your own thing?
I went back to my hotel room with our friends that were with us. I had merchandise for everybody else that was not Willis that morning, so everybody had to come back to my hotel to kind of do some trades. I had some Club 33 merch from some friends that I brought in from LA and some other things. So
cool.
We had to do some merch trades, and then I went back to. The plan was, I did make it back to Magic Kingdom that night. That was not the night that I got caught up in the bus fiasco. I went back to Magic Kingdom and watched Enchantment, and then went over to Epcot to watch Harmonious. So that's
amazing. I think that was the best cap to your day. If you hit basically you did 6 parks, right? You bounced all over the place.
Well,
so that's
I did 5, because again, Universal Studios.
Doesn't that count for half a park?
Not when you're doing Halloween.
I'm joking. Yeah, no, I know. I'm just busting balls here. No, I'm leading up to the question though that if this wasn't something you either won or you got, I don't know if a discounted rate or what it was depending on your bid. Was this something that you would spend money on? Let's say you're a Disney pro, you go to Disney all the time. Is this something that you would think about doing again in 5 years? Is this worth the cash to kind of do it? Is this like once a year type of thing that you can see you spending your money on?
Well, I think it depends on the group of people that you're going with and how you arrange it.
Absolutely.
Because if you break, because honestly, I did not ask anybody to reimburse me anything for this because it's something I did as a donation to give kids the world. Dina was very nice and offered to pay for like the equivalent of a person for it. So if you have your group of 10 friends that all tip in, and pay the equivalent of, whatever the 1/10 of the cost, it's very doable.
Not bad. Yep.
It's very doable within a trip. Now, as a family, when it's one pocketbook, it becomes rather expensive.
Yes.
Yes. But I would do this again, with a group of friends.
What's that?
Same. It would be more of a special occasion type of thing.
True.
And so the pricing, so I mentioned this at the beginning of the segment. It's a 7-hour minimum. The pricing range is anywhere from $425 all the way up to $850 an hour. The day that we went, which was a Wednesday in the middle of October, it was $575 an hour that day.
So it would have been $4,000 if you had paid cash
for the minimum. And I think we'd had a group of 8 or 9 friends, and I was spending $600 or $700, and this was once every couple of years that we were doing this. To me, it'd be worth the cost. One other thing I need to mention: there's a cap out of 10 hours now on the tour. The tours didn't have a cap prior to Rise of the Resistance opening, and that became a problem because tours were starting at 5 in the morning when Hansu was opening at 6 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, Joel was talking to us about that because they had to get boarding groups back then. They were not allowed to walk people on like they are now. So, which they've changed in recent months. So I definitely would want to do it again. But I probably want to do a little bit slower than how we went. But same thing for me. The purpose of paying for that is for the access.
Mm-hmm.
So getting the rides done versus the more leisurely that I would maybe do on my own.
Well, my next question is would you again do the 4-park whirlwind tour of hitting up the highlights that you want to do, or would you want to see how much you can do in a single? I mean, you would never do a full day Animal Kingdom because there's only 2 rides in that park. But for example, Magic Kingdom, would you try to see how many rides you can go? Can I do 2 loops through 2 different lands and 4? I can see just like any kind of video game, you have a list of achievements. Can I do Peter Pan 30 times in one day with I don't know, something stupid, but.
Well, let's put this in comparison, Jason. So I did the Boo Bash on that Sunday night before the VIP tour. And I got to the Magic Kingdom, and instead of watching Enchantment, I decided to do some of the longer rides, and so I did Pirates. I did like 10 rides in 3 hours during Boo Bash. And
we've been hearing about that, yeah.
Right, and so we did 14 or 15 if you include Rise on the VIP tour.
No, we did 15 without Rise. We did 15 up to Falcon.
15, okay, whatever. But yeah, so it was 6 hours versus 3, but it was different parks. So again, it depends on your intent and what you want to do with the VIP tour. If you want to spend it all at Magic Kingdom, or even all at Hollywood Studios, or even Animal Kingdom, that's your choice. On how you want to spend that money.
Sure.
Again,
of course.
You look at your purpose. Now they could also do it if you wanted to see attractions or shows. They could get you in through for those as well, but they're going to be time sucks, and that's why we didn't do things like Pirates or Jungle Cruise, because they were longer rides that really eats into the time.
Well, like you're saying you had 6 hours. To me, that's like my initial thoughts, like, oh, that's a lot of time. But then you're talking about running around the parks. That's like nothing at that point. You run out so fast.
When you're park hopping, it's not a lot of time. If we had only, let's say, only done Magic Kingdom and only done Hollywood Studios, yes, we probably could have added in Jungle Cruise and added in Pirates and added in Splash Mountain and would have been fine on time. But for the amount of time that we did have, we had made a decision, and we had made this decision back when we first started planning, before May of 2020 had gotten canceled. We originally weren't going to go to Epcot unless Ratatouille was open. So we kind of had a plan in place for what we wanted to do at basically all of the parks. And one of the big things that, like, the first thing off the bat was, we're not going to do any lengthy boat rides because of time. So,
right. And again, since Dean and I go fairly frequently, we don't have to do every single attraction. So we didn't have to do Frozen. We didn't have to do Test Track. So again, that's why, again, if Rat hadn't been open, we would have skipped Epcot totally.
Well, you're customizing your day, right? You're spending the money. You get to do whatever you want to do.
Exactly. That's the whole point.
So, it might sound a little cynical. Then, is your VIP tour just basically a very expensive all-day fast pass for all 4 parks, and that's how you guys used it, or Lightning Lane, whatever you want to call it now?
I think that's a valid assessment. Again, for the way that we plan to use it, it pretty much was. Yeah,
because that's a lot of people are talking about, like, when we're still having the conversation, is FastPass coming back? What kind of paid version is going to be? People are like starting gaming out, like, well, VIP tour, if you get 10 friends, you split it up, and you're spending this like you're looking at Max Pass prices, or you're looking at the equivalent at like Universal, where it's like $300 for the day type of thing. You can really get some bang for your buck doing that, and you're kind of discounting. To me, you potentially could be discounting your interactions with the cast members and kind of behind the scenes type of stuff that might.
Well, and some of the other extras you mentioned, right? Like that they got, they went and bought your desserts while you were riding one ride, and you got the Starbucks and things like that. Like, I think some of those,
that's like concierge level type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't always hear about, and you don't get that with an all day express pass or whatever like that. And I think it kind of, adds to the experience.
There was the level of concierge service included in like the door-to-door transit in the parks with, you're not taking like the outside bus. You don't have to go wait for that like you would if you're a regular day guest, in terms of like exiting and coming back on stage in the parks.
Did you guys feel special going through there? Did you feel like, this is definitely a VIP pass, or was it just like, I'm a Disney pro and I just got like a nice golden ticket today to kind of go on some rides?
A little of both, I think, because, having the plaid there with you, and you're walking up with plaid, and the people are looking at you and going, who are these people with the plaid?
Yeah.
And honestly, during it, I'm not thinking about it because we're just having fun.
I didn't even notice people. Like, it was on my mind before the tour started. As soon as the tour started, I wasn't even there. I didn't even look to see if people were looking to see, because I know if I see a plaid, I always turn and look and see. I'm like, oh, who, somebody famous.
For people listening that don't know what that means, the tour guides wear plaid vests, so I guess that's why they're referred to as plaids.
Thing to remember also, this is the second day that the whole Genie Plus and Lightning Lane had started back up, so it wasn't maybe as uncommon seeing people going into the Lightning lanes. However, we did have the guest services person, the guy.
Yeah.
I have to say that when I was online for Falcon one time, this is obviously back in September, right after Labor Day, we saw a whole family kind of go through it was a fast pass lane at that point, still labeled as so, and I'm like, Oh, there's a VIP tour. I didn't see the cast member leading. I just kind of glanced to the side and saw a father in his Izod polo shirt and fancy loafers walking through with his children. I'm like, okay, this guy's got some bucks. He's getting the VIP. You could tell like the there's only like 4 of them, and what no one had any. You weren't using it for any kind of like disability. Or anything else like that. It was just, a family walking through. I'm like, oh, there's a VIP tour. That's cool. I've never seen one before.
Yeah.
And
so maybe in a situation like ours where the guy did go up the stairs, didn't go up the ramps with them. But I will say you may not have known if it was disability access service because if somebody's in there for intellectual disabilities, you may not have known.
That's true.
So,
no, that's valid. That's valid.
Yeah.
I'm making a lot of
another
assumptions.
thing to mention is that Club 33 has still had fast passes throughout this whole time. So that is another thing.
Well, the VIP is just a poor man's version of Club 33 at that point with the amount of money you pay on Club 33. So again, if you're a VIP, you're Club 33. You're in another level at that point. So
one thing to think about here, if you have very, very limited time at Walt Disney World or even at Disneyland, if you want to do it there, this is a great alternative if you have the financial means to do it because it's cost versus time.
Absolutely.
If you have the money to do it, this is a great way to do all the parks and hit the stuff you want to within a day, and then you do whatever else you want to the other days.
That comes down to a lot of like what we were talking about, right? When we're thinking about the paying for Genie Plus and the the paid ILL is like, do you go all out on a certain day and maybe pay for everything, but then your trip is one day less, or you do it like a calm day the other? And this is kind of like a more extreme version of that, I guess, where you kind of get a lot.
Well, Phil, we have this conversation all the time, Phil. Like you are staying off site. Do I I'll take the paid passes because I'll go. I'm not paying for the hotel, the $400 a night hotel. I'll go and spring for all this money for my family. We both have families of 5, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm not paying $100 for this and $200 for this. But Phil's like, hey, look, I'm not there for as many days. I'm staying off property, and there's all my savings, so I'll go spend that money on an awesome day. And the Magic Kingdom,
so you have fewer days, but you get more done per day or whatever.
Yeah, it's a valid argument either way. It comes down to how you feel and how you live in type of thing. Before we wrap this up, guys, do you have any advice for people thinking about doing this that want to look into it? Would you recommend a certain amount of parks, or is it like you said, it's completely up to you and how you do it?
I think you would have to first look at the time of year that you want to do it, because again, slower times of the year, the cost is going to be less. Remember, and you can book it 60 days in advance by contacting Disney directly. Mine was different because I actually had initially worked through a travel agent to do it.
And it's 60 plus 10, so it works the same way as ADRs do. It's based upon your check-in date. So,
but I will say, because I thought I had to call them to get some things changed, and that whole big fiasco with being a TA thing. Their phone systems, they're only available like 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. So you have to take that into account when you call them. But that's about it. If you have the means, go for it. I think you're the best judge of that.
I think. Oh, go ahead, Dina. Sorry.
And I was gonna say, in terms of planning the number of parks, our guide was saying that the average is to do about 3 parks on a tour. So most people don't stay at one park; they usually do 3. And our guy, we were talking, she does get a lot. They do get a lot of repeat guests. A good chunk of guests that are doing VIP tours are people that come back and book them again just because of the level of service that you're getting.
Did she have regulars?
She does.
We did.
That's awesome.
Right. And and the other thing to remember is, if you have small kids versus all adults, your way you do this whole tour is going to be totally different because of you may have to make more frequent stops or whatever if you have small kids, things like that.
No, that makes sense. If you've got small kids and you're considering VIP tours, I think you have the financial means to add on a couple hours just in case something kind of runs long at that point. Or when you actually, here's a question: when you book, do you have to say I'm doing 6 hours and they cut you off, or you can just let it keep running like a taxi service?
I
don't know because this was the TA one, so
we would have had to have pre-elected if we did have the ability to add, but we would have had to let them
Uh-oh.
Oh no!
I think we I think we're still recording on YouTube. If you're watching,
I think we ran out of time on Zencaster.
So I'll have to add on anything else. But anyway, we're wrapping this up anyway. Dean and Willis, thank you so much for coming on. And before we go, you have a DVC recommends full. Let's just
real quick.
We're already like an hour and a half into it, so we might just add one more.
So if you are still listening, this might be a good DVC recommends for you. You might already know this, but Disney did release the Harmonious soundtrack and also the song from Enchantment. Magic Happens, that you can now download those, buy them, and they're on Apple Music and all that sort of thing. So if you haven't been to the parks yet, or you've only seen that not so great live stream of Harmonious, downloading the music and kind of listening to it a few times might make you appreciate the show a little bit more. I've been doing that the last couple of days.
Awesome. And guys, Dean, I was about to ask you about your opinions on the new fireworks shows, but the show can't be 3 hours long. So maybe we'll have you back on for a special episode talking about that. Because I definitely want to hear everybody's opinions on this, because it's such a hot topic of people with their own thing. So in any case, I got to end it here because I think Zencaster is getting angry at me, and we'll get these up. And again, thank you for sharing your journey. And with that being said, guys, have a good night or good morning, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.